I'm Tom Layson, and this is a Northwest Now Digital Extra. Last November, the U.S. Surgeon General issued a report called Facing Addiction in America. With 20 million people addicted and only 10% getting treatment, the report clearly described a recipe for disaster, and it's happening. In King County last year, a new record was set with 359 fatal overdoses, 61% involving opioids, and most of it Mexican black tar heroin. Meanwhile, nationally, in 2014, the Centers for Disease Control reports that 34,000 people died in car crashes, while 47,000 people died from opioid overdoses. And that's more than the 43,000 who died at the peak of the HIV/AIDS crisis in 1995. Congress has put $1 billion into the pipeline to fight the opioid epidemic. That includes prescription drug monitoring, prevention training, doctor training, and expanded access to addiction treatment. It sounds promising, but for now, small towns like Shelton, Washington continue to fight a losing battle.
Looking down Oakland Bay, it's easy to feel a little gloomy. And as for the town of Shelton, sitting at the end of the bay, possibly even depressed when considering the 8% unemployment rate and the opioid addiction crisis running through the area's rain-soaked neighborhoods. On the front lines are people like advanced nurse practitioner Sarah Magnuson-White, who says the crackdown on prescribing opioids, while good, has also led some healthcare providers to just throw up their hands and walk away from people in trouble.
You can't do it in 5 minutes. And that's how healthcare is becoming these days. And so we're not asking the questions, we're not looking at what the underlying problem is. And what's happening is instead of giving too many meds and not asking the right questions, they're just not giving it at all. And there's times when people actually need medication out there, or they need to be weaned, or they need to see what the underlying problem is. And in 5 minutes, you have to get out the door. So it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give it. Take care of it yourself. Well, people don't have the tools to do that. That's why they're coming to us. We're the experts. So that's where I see the other problem being, well, I'm not going to do anything at all now because I don't want to deal with it. It's like, we have to deal with it. It's a problem that's affecting us all.
It's affecting people like Samantha Parker, who grew up surrounded by prescription drug abusers.
Well, the aunt who adopted me was addicted to prescription medicine, so a bunch of opiates. And it was just around me all the time, and I was depressed, and I saw that helped my mom, so I took on that too. And yeah, when I was 16, a junior in high school is when I first started all of that on my own terms.
But Parker says once the pills became hard to get and there was no help for her family's underlying problems, there was only one answer when stress re-triggered her addiction issues.
And when I was 20 years old, I had lost my grandfather, and a boyfriend I was with for about 3 years, we broke up too, so I just felt like I was at my lowest. And this girl that I became best friends with, her boyfriend was a heroin dealer in Lacey, and I didn't care. I was like, well, pills are more expensive, so I mean, it's the same thing, right? And I just constantly made excuses for it, and all the time. You know, honestly, heroin is cheaper to get than pills. It's easier to get, and it's more addicting. And that's what people don't understand is it's more than like what you're thinking it is, and it will take you away quicker than you think. And pills are definitely the start of it.
So while County Public Health has added things like prescription drug take-back boxes to help reduce the supply of opioids, Magnuson-White is excited to be part of a new pilot program to bring a proven Suboxone treatment model to Mason County that marries the drug substitution treatment with a palette of other support services.
And the cool thing is 2 years, as we're looking at getting people onto the medication, being stabilized in 2 years, getting the mental health care, getting housing if they need the housing, getting them into the 12-step group, getting them into rehab if they need to, and they have 2 years therapy to be able to deal with the underlying problems, and the goal being graduation in 2 years to be off the Suboxone. Now, is it going to work? I don't know.
With addiction and overdoses killing so many, I was actually surprised to hear Magnuson-White's answer to my final question, whether she was optimistic or pessimistic about someday controlling the opioid addiction crisis in places like Shelton.
I'm optimistic in my little world, in my little kingdom of Mason County. I think we have some excellent players, I will say, And I've been watching a lot and seeing where people put their money where their mouth is. And so far, I'm seeing that. And so I am then cautiously optimistic in this county, in this area. So I sleep well at night.
To see our full discussion about the opioid addiction crisis, be sure to look on the Northwest Now digital section at kbtc.org. Northwest Now airs Friday nights at 7:30 right here on KBTC. And be sure to look for more digital stories like this one by following us on Facebook and Twitter at Northwest Now.